It's Tuesday, October 31st, and time now for your Barbados Today afternoon update. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ryan Joltz. Significant challenges remain for the Barbados economy against the backdrop of some positive signs, including growth of 1.4% for the first 3 quarters of the year. The country's international reserve continue to fall and currently stand at 8.6 weeks of import cover at the end of the 3rd quarter. Acting Central Bank Governor Cliviston Haynes delivered this update as he reported on the island's economic performance up to September this morning.
The Barbadian economy continues to face significant economic challenges. In particular, strengthening of the international reserves is needed to ensure that the reserve buffer remains adequate in order to protect the fixed exchange rate peg. Current forecasts are for a moderate recovery in reserves by the end of the current fiscal year, but the higher capital inflows, including those associated with public sector divestment, remain central to this outturn. The implementation of the measures enunciated in the 2017-2018 Financial Statement and Budgetary Proposal was designed to contribute to a substantially reduced fiscal deficit during the current fiscal year. While there has been an initial decline in the deficit, we must pay attention to the ongoing downside risks in light of the uncertainty about the pace of the planned divestment of public sector assets. The fiscal outlook underscores the need for expenditure restraint in the short term to supplement the recently introduced revenue measures, as government seeks to place the public finances on a sustainable path and reduce the debt overhang.
Meanwhile, the government has made some headway in reducing its high fiscal deficit. The acting governor attributes this to the positive movement to revenue earnings measures implemented over the last 2 years.
The fiscal deficit was estimated to be $279 million for the first 6 months of the fiscal year, a $115 million improvement over the same period in 2016. Tax revenues increased by $98.6 million, due in part to a $48.8 million boost in receipts from the National Social Responsibility Levy. In addition, excise taxes rose by $46.4 million, resulting from higher excises on fuels and improved chargeable values on imported goods. Corporate taxes rose by $35.5 million, and there were smaller gains in the collection of VAT and personal income taxes. However, the overall revenue outturn was dampened by weaker import duties and a fall in withholding taxes. Current expenditure increased by $13.9 million, largely due to grants to public institutions, which rose by $20.7 million. Rising debt levels also contributed to domestic interest expenses, increasing by $14.7 million. These increases were offset by modest expenditure savings on goods and services and wages and salaries. In addition, government reduced its capital expenditure over the 6-month period by $39.5 million as capital transfers to statutory bodies declined.
Education Minister Ronald Jones rubbishes claims that his ministry has ignored the cries of St. Mark's Primary School in St. Philip. Just last week, members of the school's Parent Teachers Association staged a protest outside the premises claiming that it was unfit for the students. Minister Jones, however, said his ministry has been spending money on ensuring the school is secure and in a condition suitable for the holding of classes. But he explained that the more than 100-year-old facility is built of limestone and was not in an ideal location, and efforts were underway to have the school relocated by next year.
We had identified land further north, east or northwest, whatever, of that school location on land privately owned. And we also look at land owned by the government as you move towards St. Mark's and below the old pavilion where there was land for a new school for St. Mark's. That school, I'm told, is 185 years old at the St. Mark's School, but that the current building is just over 100 years old. Okay. So it's old, it's made of limestone. That presents its own challenges. I can understand the teacher's frustration because things don't stay on the walls. The spores and the way they breathe pushes everything off and all of that.
Criminal Justice Advisor to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean with the U.S. Embassy and the British High Commission, Sarah Abrahams, tells regional officials it's time to change the way they handle evidence in criminal cases. Speaking at the first annual conference of the Department of Public Prosecution, she stressed that while it was common practice to record evidence in writing, this should be replaced by digital recordings. Abraham said this reduces false claims made by suspects against officers.
The video and audio recording of an interview shows exactly what went on. Why else? Well, it protects the rights of both the officer and the suspect. It provides an authentic record. Body language and demeanour at the time of the interview of a suspect when an offence first takes place is very different to what it is when they give evidence in court 3-4 years later. It also helps investigators provide a more accurate testimony and not rely on their memory. What is the net effect of digital recording of interviews? Benefit is conviction rates go up, trial lengths go down, a better justice system.
It was a celebration of the island's culture and heritage last night when the Barbados Tourism Product Authority launched the 2018 sugar and rum season. The 4-month-long season, which was launched at Portville Sugar Factory, will be the second edition of the event and will run from January 15th to April 15th. The CEO of the BTPA, Dr. Kerry Hall, reminded the audience that Barbados is the birthplace of rum and said it is important that the story of sugar and rum be told to both local and visitors alike.
We insist that we must tell the story of Barbados to the world. It is a fascinating, rich and compelling story that we believe the world will be interested in hearing. And a large part of this story is the rich history of sugar and rum. As you know, for over 300 years in Barbados, sugar was king and rum was queen. And Barbados was known to be one of the richest countries, richest colonies in the Caribbean region, and the brightest jewel in the British crown due to the great wealth that was accumulated by the sugar and rum industry. And of course, this wealth was made possible through the hard work, the blood, sweat and tears, and on the backs of the enslaved people. And we owe it to them to tell this story.
Meanwhile, Tourism Minister Richard Seeley lauded the private sector investment in preserving that aspect of Barbados' heritage.
Of course, the St. Nicholas Abbey experiment is one that comes to mind right away, and I think the Warren family should be saluted for what they've done there, because apart from taking one of the few Jacobean mansions in the Western Hemisphere and making it something truly attractive, they've actually created a brand of rum around that whole plantation. And I am informed, only recently I had a courtesy call from Richard Drax. He is the great-great-grandson of the original Drax that started Drax Hall in St. George. Still in active production, and they want to do something quite similar to what is happening at St. Nicholas Abbey. And if you're not aware, the Drax Hall Plantation House is also Jacobean style. So we have existing ventures and we have other ventures to come on stream.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Join us from November 16th to 19th, 2017 for the Barbados Food and Rum Festival, where acclaimed Barbadian chefs and mixologists are joined by Chef Jean-Georges of the US, Chef Tom Akins of the UK, Chef Chris De La Rosa of Canada to create dining experiences to delight the senses. Visit ticketpal.com and all TicketPal locations to get your tickets, and visit foodandrum.com for more information.
Regional news now. In Guyana, a Trinidadian national who reportedly staged his own kidnapping has been charged and is expected to appear in court later today. But the exact charge against 33-year-old Sawak Maraj is not yet known. Maraj, a chemical engineer, came to Guyana last week and was scheduled to check in at a hotel in East Demerara, but never arrived. Later, his parents were contacted in Trinidad via cell phone by an unknown person who said Maraj was being held hostage and a ransom was demanded for his release. Acting on intelligence and several searches, he was found relaxing at another hotel property. 2 other persons have been allegedly involved in making the hotel reservations at Ramada Hotel. They are currently in custody. On the international scene, Catalonia's sacked president, Carles Puigdemont, says he has not traveled to Belgium to seek asylum. He has appeared in public in Brussels with several colleagues after declaring independence from Spain last week. Spain's central government has taken direct control of Catalonia and sacked officials following the regional's disputed independence referendum. Mr. Puigdemont says he is not trying to escape justice, but wants to be able to speak freely. Last Friday, Spain's constitutional court suspended the declaration of independence made by the Catalan leader on Friday. And that's where we end this edition of BT News for this afternoon. But for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. Also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals and Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you, as well as on Mix 96.9. I'm Ryan Jilt. Good afternoon.